This is Mark Zuckerberg. And Mark Zuckerberg, in my opinion, should be the embodiment of capitalism at the expense of everything else. If you don't know who Mark Zuckerberg is the owner or chief shareholder, creator, etc. of Facebook. And Facebook is a social media platform by its own definition, but it is a mainstream media platform as far as I'm concerned. Now, Mark Zuckerberg didn't give a damn about America, or to be specific, about outside influences using his platform to hurt America. I say that because over the past couple of days, various congressional hearings have exposed the fact that Facebook has been and I'll call them, witting tool of the Russians in their attempt to, and their success in, affecting our elections. It was in 2016 that Mr. Zuckerberg, in a TV interview, stated that any thought of the Russians using his platform in order to influence our elections was ludicrous. It's out there, folks. There's a video on it where that's exactly what he stated. Funny thing about it, Mr. Zuckerberg went to various countries, including China and Russia, and struck deals with those particular countries in order to limit the information that Facebook would publish, and I say publish, across its platforms. He struck deals with China, communist country, and Russia, another communist country. He struck deals with them in order to expand his product, while at the same time he lied to the American people as far as Russian involvement on his platform in putting forth fake news. And yes, folks, there is fake news. Within the past 3 days, Mr. Zuckerberg could not find it within himself to appear in front of Congress in those congressional hearings. Instead, he sent his lawyer, who under oath admitted that Facebook knew of Russian fake news being published across its platform, and yet they didn't do a damn thing about it. Now, I sat up there and watched one of the 3 congressional hearings today, and to say that the attorneys for Facebook, Google, and Twitter were dancing like Michael Jackson would be an understatement. They had to admit that there were hundreds, if not thousands, of fake news stories that were put out there by the Russians with the sole purpose of alienating certain segments of our population. And I'm talking specifically about the white redneck racists who support Confederacy and Confederate statues and Confederate generals in the South. They put out inflammatory stories regarding the Black Lives Matter movement. These guys were all over the place. They also had their minions put out stories about Clinton and misinformation about her in relationship to the black community and the brown community. And they also had people that were going live claiming to be black people and discouraging black people from voting. They made all kinds of stupid statements like your vote doesn't matter and your vote won't count, you know, things of that nature. But I digress. It was the fake stories like Black Lives Matter have killed and attacked and maimed various white people all over the country. Those were fake stories. I had a friend of mine in New York who was a Republican who would call me up from time to time and point me to the story and say, see, you know, the Black Lives Matter sucks. They're dangerous. They're terrorists. And I had to set him straight and point out that it was the stories he was reading were fake. There were stories about President Obama's daughter being pregnant twice and having abortions. You know, ridiculous stories. But those stories were picked up, retweeted, liked, etc. across Facebook, Twitter, Google, etc. And because of the proclivity for certain white people to want to believe these stories, they basically grew a life of their own. Now today it was revealed that approximately 150 million people were subject to all of these fake stories. And this was just over a period of the last 2 months, from September to November, during last year's election cycle. And in my opinion, just enough was done to rile up white people and get them out there to vote, and just enough was done to discourage black people and brown people from voting in their own self-interest. I remember multiple conversations I had online with people where they were emphatic about not voting. Voting doesn't mean anything. And my only comment to them was, if you don't vote, you're allowing someone else to determine your fate. And if you want to let a bunch of right-wing racists determine how you're going to be treated in this country, then you're dumber than I think you are. And obviously the conversation devolved from that point. But Mr. Zuckerberg has a lot of sins to answer for. He, along with his other social media buddies. He knew damn well what was going on as far as Russian involvement on his platform was concerned, and he chose to do absolutely nothing about it. And now, only after 9 months of Donald Trump denying any type of Russian involvement in our elections, even though our security people, our intelligence people, have stated emphatically that they have been all over this. And it's coming to light now that though the previous administration would not admit it, they even got into some of the voting machines. Now that is not widespread knowledge, but that information is out there. In particular, the state of Virginia knows or knew that they had a problem, and they have made sure that specific voting machines were switched out to more secure voting machines. So hopefully there won't be a problem there. But folks, we need to do something about this, because cyber warfare is being waged against us. And unless we do something about it, what? Honestly, I can't tell you. Because in my mind, only draconian matters, draconian actions will be able to fix this issue. We are going to have a problem in 2018 and potentially 2020. And it all stems from one or two or three persons' actions or inactions, as far as them seeing what was going on and choosing not to do anything, because any actions that they took in order to curtail the involvement would obviously reduce their revenue flows. And if there's one thing that a capitalist will not do, it is take any action that will reduce the flow of revenue to his business. So thank you, Mr. Zuckerberg. Hopefully you grew a pair and decide that money isn't always everything, and sometimes doing the right thing is the way to go, even for a man who apparently is as money driven as you are.